Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our anxiety evening. I'm Dr. Adrian Krasun, pediatrician and student at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition. In today's presentation, we are going to talk about anxiety, coherence, and the role of the heart and positive emotions in establishing new positive patterns of behavior. It's a journey to discover what anxiety is and how it can be beaten. So let's take a closer look. You know, we all experience anxiety in some way or another. It's something that bonds us together. Why we feel anxiety and what it really is, well, that might be surprising. Without a bit of anxiety, we'd all be in trouble because it is the way your brain reacts when you are in danger. It sends signals to the amygdala, which prepares the body to respond. That could mean fight, run away, or shut down, and it is called the fight, flight, or freeze response. Anxiety story goes back millions of years to our animal ancestors. Those with a more sensitive amygdala were more likely to survive. And over generations and generations, this reaction developed into the system that now we name anxiety. So, anxiety in itself, it's not bad. But when there's no immediate life or death threat, and your amygdala keeps telling your body that you are in danger, that's when anxiety becomes a problem. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between fighting or running and public taking a test or public speaking. Human society has developed so rapidly and complexly that it's difficult for the amygdala to keep up. So sometimes, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our brain misread the risk and overreact. Our hearts beat faster, we breathe heavily, the muscle in our arms and legs tense up, the skin perspires to cool us down. This would all be great if we needed to fight or run, but instead we just feel tense and sweaty. We try to avoid things that trigger our anxiety, like our ancestors avoiding a predator. But that can cause problems when those triggers are essential part of our life, like going to school or meeting new people that won't just give up and go away. How does knowing all these things help? Well, it starts with remembering that there's nothing physically wrong. It's just our amygdala trying to tell us that we are in danger, even if it gets confused about how much danger we are really in. Understanding why we feel anxiety is an essential step in learning how to manage it. Our emotional sensations and experiences result from the outgoing interaction between the brain, heart, hormones, and the nervous system. The brain is set up to develop familiar patterns of emotional experience and looks for similarities, differences, and relationships between patterns. Professor Dr. Carl Pribom at Stanford University was the first to propose that the brain function as a complex pattern identification and matching system. Past experience builds a set of familiar patterns, which become imprinted in our neural architecture. Recurring patterns form a reference pattern against which input patterns are compared. When the brain finds a pattern that matches the reference pattern, it processes the experience as familiar. It then triggers thoughts, feelings, and physical responses to reinforce the familiar, even if the pattern is dysfunctional. This is called the maladaptive pattern. For example, suppose you worry a lot. In that case, worrying can be so familiar to your body that you feel uncomfortable even when you're not worried or anxious. Once worry or anxiety becomes the familiar reference pattern, the brain keeps defaulting to anxious feelings and thoughts as the path of resistance. And this is how habits are formed. The brain considers the familiar to be more comfortable, no matter how irrational it may be. It strives to maintain a match with mental, emotional, and physical anxiety responses and habits, despite their detrimental impact on health, well-being, or behavior. Without an effective intervention, anxiety can become self-perpetuating and self-reinforcing. The more we experience anxiety, the more it becomes engraved in our neural circuitry and transforms into the brain's default reaction. Feelings and emotions usually transform in habits and often have a life of their own. In this way, anxiety becomes an automatic response to thoughts and feelings. The way to interrupt this cycle is to introduce new patterns and reinforce them until they become familiar, thus establishing a new reference pattern. Once a new reference pattern becomes stabilized, your system will strive to maintain a match with this new baseline. In this stage, the mind and rational thought alone are not strong enough to cut through anxiety. That's why you need the power of your heart. Not only exterior events, but also the patterns of rhythmic activity within the body provides inputs to the brain. They form the backdrop of our emotional experience. These patterns include the heart's rhythmic beating pattern, respiratory, digestive, and hormonal rhythms, patterns of muscular tension, particularly the facial expressions. The brain continuously monitors these inputs to organize perception, cognition, feeling, and behavior. So, how can our heart help us to beat anxiety? Well, the heart interacts with the brain and body through multiple routes. The nervous system, hormones, pulse waves, and electromagnetic fields. The heart's intrinsic nervous system forms a complex neural network large enough to be considered as the brain of the heart or the little brain. This system receives information from the brain via the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system. On the other hand, it is known that most vagal nerve fibers have an afferent nature, meaning that the heart sends much more information than it receives from the brain. This enables the heart to learn, make decisions, recall memory, and even feel independently of the brain. What is interesting is that these neurons are located primarily near the places where the heart valves open and close, and second, near the areas where the arteries and veins enter or get out of the heart. In this way, the pressure waves generated by the heart movement are connected to the heart's brain. This wave activity, synchronized with the neural activity, forms a language through which the heart speaks to the entire body. It tells the body what chemistry it should release, whether it is stress chemistry or rejuvenating chemistry. And it is the way our heart modulates emotional response. In physics, coherence describes the quality of synchronization between systems with oscillatory properties. Cross-coherence occurs when two or more biological systems like breath and heart rate operate at the same frequency. Different oscillating systems, when coupled, have a natural tendency toward synchronization. At the same time, when coupled with other systems, a system with increased coherence transfers its state, leading to more synchronization and better functioning of the entire unit. Heart-brain synchronization increases the coherent state obtained in a person, shifting the autonomic system balance toward parasympathetic activity, leading to a higher degree of harmony and efficiency between different physiological systems and facilitating regenerative processes. We know from ancient Chinese writings that the easiest way to control the heart is through breathing. They compare the heart to the monkey and the breath to the banana. Just as you can control the monkey by showing it a banana, regular breathing controls the heartbeat. Researchers also have shown that short periods of coherence obtained with rhythmic breathing can be prolonged through the active generations of positive emotions. A conscious shift from stress to a positive emotion brings the heart's rhythm into more coherence. This positive change in the heart creates a series of neural, hormonal, and biochemical events beneficial to the entire body, including the autonomic nervous system rebalancing. How can we measure coherence? Well, it can be done through the heart rate variability. By measuring the normal changes in heart rate variability reflects the interaction between the heart and the brain, including the autonomic nervous system dynamics. It also reflects the inherent capacity for self-regulation, adaptability, and resilience. In this way, heart rate variability can measure physiological resilience and behavior flexibility, reflecting one's ability for self-regulation and adaptation to variable environmental conditions. Using the power of the heart as the dominant oscillating system, we manage to balance the autonomic nervous system and the activity of the centers involved in processing emotion, like thalamus, amygdala, prefrontal cortex. The heart's connection with the amygdala, which is the brain's key center in coordinating behavior, immunological, and neuroendocrine responses to environmental threats, is the path through which increasing cardiac coherence manage to harmonize all these functions. In addition, replacing the familiar pattern of negative emotions by focusing on positive emotions establish a new reference line in fast and slow emotional responses. The two organs, the heart and the brain, can become a single system by sending the proper signal from the heart at a correct frequency. And this frequency is around 0.1 Hz, or about 60 beats per minute. It is the frequency at which the heart and brain become synchronized. And there is more about this 0.1 Hz frequency, because it is the resonance frequency of the Earth's magnetic field. So, at this frequency, our heart, brain, glands, and our entire body become synchronized and harmonized with the planet we live upon. It is the frequency of love. It is the frequency where healing begins. The three keys for obtaining heart-brain harmony and reduce anxiety are shift focus, shift breathing, and shift feeling. Now, let's try this for a moment. Shift focus. Focus your attention in the area of your heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. Shift breathing. Breathe a little slower and deeper than usual. Find an easy way that's comfortable for you. Now let's shift feeling. As you continue your heart-focused breathing, make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling of love, care, or appreciation for someone or something in your life. Stay in this state as much as you feel comfortable. Thank you for your attention and have a nice and coherent evening.